My golden child sister borrowed $17,000 from me to start a business, but actually spent the money traveling and gambling. I took her to court over it, but my whole family sided with her. My sister recently came to me asking me to lend her $7,000 for a business investment. She already owed me $3,000, so at first I said no, but my parents forcefully pressured me into giving in. My sister promised to have it back to me within 6 months as she'd have her business up and running by then. However, the 6 months passed, and not only had she not even started her business yet, but she had actually spent the $7,000 on herself. She went traveling in Asia, bought a new gaming console, and gambled the rest away. I remember the day she came to me about it, her parents and mine with her. Apparently, she felt awful for how reckless she was with the $7,000 and wanted to make things right. In order to do this, she asked for another loan of $7,000, swearing that this time she'd start a business. I straight up laughed at her, but as I was in the middle of telling her no, my mom interrupted me. She screamed that family help each other out and started relentlessly pushing me into giving her the money. The memories of being ganged up on like this resurfaced, and as my parents, my mom and dad, and my brother all towered over me talking about lending her the money, I essentially let them bully me into giving my sister another $7. As the months went on, my sister, of course, never paid me back. I gave her another 6 months, and after that, I started pressing her about the now total $17,000 she owed me. Of course, my family defended her, saying I was overreacting and needed to give her time. This was unfortunately no surprise, as growing up the difference between my sister and me was obvious. I remember being 16 and working long hours at a diner to save for my first car. I took every extra shift I could while my sister didn't have to work at all. On her 16th birthday, our family threw her a big party and gave her a brand new car with a huge red bow on top. It wasn't just the car that bothered me, it was how the family treated her. They acted like my sister deserved the world, while no one seemed to notice how hard I worked. When I finally saved enough to buy a used car, there was no celebration. It felt like my effort didn't matter. One Thanksgiving, my sister casually mentioned crashing her car while racing with friends. Instead of being upset, my family laughed and brushed it off. My dad even wrote her a check to cover the repairs. If that had been me, I'd have been grounded for months. It was always like that. When my sister struggled in school, they hired tutors and blamed the teachers. When I had trouble, I was told to figure it out on my own. My sister got everything handed to her while I had to work for everything I had. The family saw her as special while I was just expected to manage on my own. My mom told me to be patient. My sister has always come through for the family, and she'll come through for me too. Sure. My sister had helped family members before. She'd paid off my mom's overdue credit card bill once and even covered my cousin's rent when she lost her job. Everyone loved to remind me of that as if those small favors made her some sort of hero, but what they conveniently forgot was that my sister never had to worry about her own bills. My dad had always handled her car payments, and my mom paid her credit card debt when it got too high. Her college tuition, fully covered. She never had the stress of budgeting, of choosing between paying the electric bill or the rent. Of course, she could come through when she didn't have real responsibilities weighing her down. My sister would swoop in and throw a few $100s at someone now and then, but no one had ever given her anything like the $17,000 total I'd loaned her. That was a whole different story. She was always the one offering help, not the one owing it. No one had ever asked her for anything this big. And now that I had, she couldn't handle it. Then there was the confrontation. I gathered up the family and asked my sister for the money in front of everyone. I looked around the room for some form of support when I made my statement, but all I got were blank stares. My father gave me a shrug. My sister, on the other hand, just sat there, looking smug. Her hands folded in front of her like she had nothing to answer for. My mom that she paid the credit card for broke the silence and said that I was overreacting and that family isn't just about money. She said I was causing a rift over something trivial and that we'd all miss each other if one of us had died. She loved pulling the if I were dead card, but this wasn't about that. I needed my money, and she treated it as if it were spare change. I had worked hard to save up that money. I sacrificed nights out with friends, put in overtime shifts at both jobs, and budgeted every meal, and here was my family, acting like it was no big deal that my sister had essentially taken my hard-earned savings and used them to fund her lavish lifestyle. I said that she promised to pay it back, and it's been 6 months with nothing but excuses. My sister leaned back in her chair, crossed her arms, and told me that the money was tied up. She said the same thing that she'd been telling me for months. As soon as the deal goes through, I'll get it back with interest. She asked me to trust her. I did trust her, but every time I asked for an update, she had another excuse. Meanwhile, she was out here living her best life while I was sitting here wondering if I'd ever see that money again. Before my sister could respond, my dad, who had been silent up until this point, told me that he was disappointed to see us act like this and said that my sister was doing something good for the future of the family, and in a couple of years, the $17,000 would mean nothing when we have $1 million and that I should be proud that I helped her out early on. I felt my stomach drop. I told him it was fine and left it there. I knew that I was only wasting my time talking to them. I realized that my family wasn't going to help me, so I took matters into my own hands. Over the next few weeks, I stopped going to any family gatherings. Every time I thought about seeing them, my stomach twisted. I started collecting evidence of my sister's spending habits. I knew my sister was spending the money on luxurious things. And while her Instagram posts were public, I needed more. I needed solid proof, so I started digging. I looked into public records, tracked her purchases, and followed up on her so-called business investments.